Now at 10, a Minneapolis girl's sense of security stolen in one elevator ride.
I couldn't believe it, and my daughter, she was so scary, and she was like, I cannot go anymore outside by myself.
Plus, a life-saving drug now available over the counter.
We're thrilled. It eliminates the barrier of having to face the stigma.
Tonight, the push to make an overdose antidote accessible to everyone.
And in weather, the radar's busy tonight. We have showers and even a few claps of thunder up north. We'll talk about when this moves out and when the sun returns. The news starts now.
Our top story tonight, a 10-year-old girl violated in the same community she calls home. Police say a stranger raped her at a Cedar Riverside apartment complex.
Witnesses who heard her screams quickly took action to help. John Croman is live in Minneapolis with more on this story. John?
You know, we're talking about an attack that occurred at 5:30 on a Sunday afternoon inside this girl's secured apartment building. So in addition to the suffering that this young victim endured, it also has threatened the sense of security that people, families, and children normally feel over in that Riverside Cedar area.
It's really sad.
Riverside Plaza is the hub of the Somali community. News of the attack spread quickly here.
People are sad, they're shocked, and they're concerned, obviously, for the welfare of the young girl, and also they're looking forward, saying what happened, what could have been done different.
31-year-old Ahmed Hersi Abdi is charged with the crime. Investigators say he followed the girl into her building Sunday afternoon, rode the elevator with her up to the third floor, asked to shake her hand, then sexually assaulted her.
I'm a mom, and I have a girls, and I do understand her pain.
Fadumo Yusuf has a daughter the same age as the victim.
I couldn't believe it, and my daughter, she was so scary, and she was like, I cannot go anymore outside by myself.
People came across the female in crisis. They ran to get the officers who they knew would be there.
John Elder of the Minneapolis PD said 2 off-duty police officers arrived at the scene within minutes and reviewed surveillance video.
Because of the officers working in that area so much on duty and off duty, they were able to identify by sight our suspect. They saw the suspect and said, hey, that's, and knew his name.
Elder said the quick arrest highlights the benefits of community policing.
You know, if people trust their police department, they're willing to call them.
The suspect, Abdi, appeared to be suffering from untreated mental illness, according to Mahmoud Noor.
This is someone, everybody knows him in the community, so they've seen him, they've interacted with him.
Now, Abdi was arrested later that night in St. Paul and brought back here to Minneapolis, and he's still here at the Hennepin County Jail being held on 2 charges of first-degree criminal sexual conduct. His previous record, really just minor nuisance crimes like trespassing, disorderly conduct, and public urination, so nothing really to point that to him having this type of a tendency. Back to you.
Thank you, John. A Maple Grove man is in jail tonight, charged with 2 counts of prostitution after police say he had sex with a 16-year-old girl. Investigators say Corin Moose paid the girl $80 after answering an online ad in August. Officers say they arrested Moose after he went to meet the girl for a second time in Cottage Grove. They say they found a new tarp, a large empty suitcase, and rubber gloves inside his vehicle.
A 4th day of searching turned up no new clues in the disappearance of a 23-year-old Otsego man. So far, there have been no signs of Joe Brunn. He went missing Saturday night after leaving a wedding reception. More than 3,000 volunteers have helped search for him in Elk River, Monticello, and near the Mississippi River. There is a $10,000 reward for information that leads to finding him. A second Richfield police officer is now on paid administrative leave after this video surfaced on Twitter this week. The video appears to show an officer pushing, then hitting a 19-year-old man. The teenager says the officer was telling him to leave a park minutes after the officer cited him for careless driving. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is investigating the incident.
The Coast Guard has ended its search for the crew of a cargo ship that sank during a hurricane. 33 crew members were on the El Faro. It sank Thursday off the coast of the Bahamas during Hurricane Joaquin. The captain of the 800-foot ship planned to sail around the storm, but engine trouble left the ship in its path. There's been no sight of the ship. Searchers found a body in a survival suit and some debris. The water in that area is almost 3 miles deep. It could be days before the threat of floods subsides in South Carolina. 62 dams are being watched tonight. Governor Nikki Haley says residents are holding their breath and saying a prayer. But many survivors have discovered that their neighborhoods have been wiped out. The storm is blamed for 17 deaths in the state. Back here at home, we're looking at rain for the first time in a while.
Belle's in the backyard to time it out for us. Hi, Belle.
Well, hi, Julie. It's the first rain of October. We haven't had any rain yet this month. And of course, last month we were dry for a number of days. So here comes the rain. Nothing severe, maybe just a little rumble of thunder to the north. And it is all going to move through in the overnight hours, pretty much departing in the latter portion of the morning commute, but affecting the early part of the morning commute. Right now it is raining pretty heavily, as you can see, from Hibbing down to Grand Rapids, all the way down to Wadena and Alexandria, and it will continue to do that. As we move home, we've had a couple of sprinkles, but the atmosphere is just starting to get revved up for the evening, and we'll get about a 1/4 inch of rain at the most overnight up north. There could be a few spots that see a 1/2 inch, and the rain and thunderstorm activity will affect us from around 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, and then we expect it to be cloudy for the rest of the day. The sun breaks out for the weekend, and so does the heat. We'll have all the details coming up in a couple of minutes.
All right, thank you, Belle. President Obama has apologized to Doctors Without Borders for a U.S. air attack that killed at least 22 people at an Afghanistan hospital last weekend. But the apology may have come too late for outraged aid groups. NBC's Richard Engel has the first-hand accounts of the survivors.
After struggling to explain how and why the U.S. bombed a hospital in Afghanistan, today the president made a call.
This morning from the Oval Office, President Obama spoke by telephone with Doctors Without Borders International President Dr. Joanne Liu to apologize and express his condolences for the MSF staff and patients who were killed and injured when a U.S. military airstrike mistakenly struck an MSF field hospital in Kunduz, Afghanistan over the weekend.
But the apology may be too late.
This doesn't change anything. We appreciate the expression of condolences, but it doesn't change the fact that we have 22 dead patients and staff that were killed as a result of this attack.
Today, Doctors Without Borders allowed our cameras access to the injured, now recovering in Kabul, who described the bombing, the yelling, and the chaos like doomsday.
The United States, when we make a mistake, we're honest about it, we own up to it.
But for days, the U.S. military kept changing its story, first saying U.S. troops were under fire, then acknowledging they weren't, then saying Afghan troops had requested the airstrike. And today, unnamed officials suggested low-level U.S. officers were at fault.
Richard Engel, NBC News, Berlin.
Doctors Without Borders says the U.S. may have violated the Geneva Convention and wants an international investigation into war crimes. The White House says internal American investigations should be sufficient. Minnesota U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar is calling for a federal investigation into the rising cost of prescription drugs. In a letter to the Federal Trade Commission, Klobuchar also said there is evidence that some pharmaceutical companies could be restricting drug distribution in violation of antitrust laws.
A drug known to save lives of heroin users who have overdosed is becoming more accessible in Minnesota. First responders started carrying Narcan earlier this year, but now anyone can buy it over the counter. Jay Olstead is here now with details. Jay?
Yeah, Randy, calling accidental overdoses an epidemic, CVS Pharmacy announced it's offering Narcan, also known as naloxone, over the counter at its stores in about a dozen states, including Minnesota and Wisconsin. It's potentially putting what is described as a miracle drug in more hands than ever before.
We are absolutely thrilled.
It's a victory Lexi Reed Holton believes will save lives.
They're fearful to go into their doctor and ask for the help they need.
Last month, CVS announced they will offer the drug naloxone over the counter without a prescription. It's a drug advocates, including doctors, say is safe and effective, reversing the symptoms of a heroin and prescription painkiller overdose.
It has no abuse potential and can do no harm.
Her fiancé, Steve Rumler, died of a heroin overdose in 2011. She now helps run the Steve Rumler Hope Foundation, which has pushed for more access to naloxone.
We know that people don't have to die this way. We know that other families don't have to experience the grief and loss that we did.
In an email to KARE 11, CVS wrote, "We have entered into standing order and collaborative practice agreements with prescribers for naloxone, which gives us the ability to dispense this medication to patients without their having to present a prescription for it."
The Minnesota Pharmacists Association hasn't really had an opportunity to look at this.
Jeff Lindu is the president of the Minnesota Pharmacists Association, which has no position on this issue, but he does say he expects other pharmacies to follow CVS's lead.
And the pharmacist is becoming a much more active member of the healthcare team.
It's a team, thanks to this recent announcement, that is much larger as they try to reverse a deadly epidemic.
We're thrilled. It eliminates the barrier of having to face the stigma.
Yeah, and the training to administer the drug, according to the Steve Rumler Hope Foundation, is straightforward and could be done when patients pick up the drug at the pharmacy. The group is also working to expand this to rural pharmacies, since experts say more people in rural communities die from overdoses than here in the metro area. Randy?
All right. Thank you, Jay. Dozens of hourly workers rallied at Minneapolis City Hall today as a committee considered the Working Families Agenda. A coalition called Minneapolis Works asked the council to vote on a plan that requires all businesses to give employees paid sick leave. They also want to set work schedules at least 2 weeks in advance or payment for last-minute changes. One fast food worker told city leaders that her hours are cut back if she calls in sick.
I just want to know that my house is straight and my son has clothes on his back. Like, my cares is the last thing. So, like, let the city council really think, like, I deserve a life like you.
Well, I've been in this industry for 25 years, and there's never been an uproar like we've had over this issue in that time. It just shows, because it affects every business in Minneapolis that has an employee. So over 39,000 businesses would be having new costs thanks to the city inserting itself in their business.
The Minneapolis Regional Chamber of Commerce and a coalition of businesses opposed the measure. A public hearing is now set for November 4th. If passed, the changes would not be implemented until late next year.
We have new information tonight on a Robbinsdale lake contaminated by cement grout back in August. The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency says the contractor who failed to keep the toxic material out of Lower Twin Lake has completed cleaning the water. The contamination occurred during a water main fix on County Road 9. Still ahead at 10, the debate over costs for the new Viking Stadium enters a new chapter.
Plus, answering tough questions, Volkswagen's top U.S.-based executive prepares to testify before Congress over its faulty diesel vehicles.
And in tonight's Take Care of Your Money, the over-the-top holiday gifts featured in this year's Neiman Marcus catalog.
Volkswagen is making plans to recall millions of vehicles. The company's new CEO said the recall could begin in January. Up to 11 million vehicles contain diesel engines with software used to cheat on U.S. emissions tests. All cars should be fixed by the end of 2016. A U.S.-based executive is set to testify on Capitol Hill tomorrow. Consumer borrowing in the U.S. just hit a new record high. More people are taking out auto and student loans. According to the Federal Reserve, consumer borrowing rose by $16 billion in August to a record $3.47 trillion. Borrowing for car and student loans increased by $12 billion.
Minnesota-made Spam is coming out of the can more than 78 years after it was introduced. The popular meat is going bite-sized. Spam snacks will come in pouches and be available in 3 varieties: classic, bacon, and teriyaki. The product is available in select markets, including Minneapolis, starting this month. Ever wanted to go on a motorcycle trip with Keanu Reeves?
Sure.
She's awful quiet about it now, but she was really excited about it before.
She certainly was.
Now you can. It's one of the gifts in the new Neiman Marcus Christmas book. The 2-day trip along the California coast will run about $150,000. Does that mean his career in movies is not going well?
Potentially.
All right, something cheaper, $90,000 to take a ride to the edge of space. It allows you and 7 friends to travel 100,000 feet above the Earth in a luxury pressurized balloon.
I just want to know who's driving that balloon. That
Yeah.
would be
And then does one of your 7 friends know what they're doing?
And then when you get up there, the trick is they go, it's
How do
another
you
50
get down?
grand to go back down. It's up to you. It's up to you.
Yep.
I love that
man.
catalog. It's so much fun. Kind of ridiculous.
I love it
But
too.
it also means we're not that far away.
I know, no kidding. We're into October, even though it does still feel like September. Tonight it was really interesting. Right around sunset, a lot of people saw the same thing and took a picture of it and sent it to me. And I got it from a number of different people, and it was this. And this was taken by William Pears. He's 13. His mom sent me the email. And what was happening right around sunset was the rain, the first bands of rain were moving in. Jane is his mom. So Jane, thank you for the picture. The first bands of rain were moving in, but the dew point was pretty low at that point in time. So the atmosphere wasn't ready for the rain. And so that rain was evaporating, which is called virga. And as that rain evaporated right at sunset, when the sun was setting just before 7 o'clock, the rays of sunshine were refracting off of that moisture on the lower portion of the clouds. And it looked like, you know, red fire below a number of clouds along all over the metro as that rain was moving in. So thank you for sharing that with me. And I put a bunch of those pictures on my Facebook page, and it was pretty spectacular because here and there you'd see it just basically wherever that rain was evaporating. And now that rain is not evaporating because the atmosphere has enough moisture in it, and so now we'll get some rain across the region. But it takes a while when the atmosphere is really dry for it to get ready for that rain to actually hit the surface. And until then, it just evaporates. And that happens a lot in the west with these high-based thunderstorms. If you travel west, you'll be in the mountains and you'll look across and you'll see the bottom of the clouds and you'll see the rain, but it will be dry at the surface. And that happens a ton in that elevation. But here, it doesn't happen as much. But tonight it was beautiful right when that sun was setting. And now the rain is moving in, as you can see. And it is starting to affect most of northern Minnesota. And most of northern Minnesota could have as much as a ½ an inch of rain in the rain gauge by tomorrow morning. In the metro, it'll probably be 1/10 to about 1/4 inch, but it will be our first rains of October. And so a little bit of that is now moving through the northern portion of the metro, just to the north of East Bethel, north of Anoka County, and through St. Cloud as well, Alexandria, and all of it will be moving through the region in the overnight hours toward the morning hours. So at the present hour, it's already down into the 40s with that rain. This morning, it was 25 on the North Shore. Of course, tomorrow morning will be a little bit warmer with the clouds and rain falling. 63 right now in Marshall. So we do have a dew point now that's up to 40. It'll take a while for that dew point to actually rise to the temperature as the temperature's falling a bit. And then that is when that rain will really start to come down. So here's the computer cast. Here's 11 o'clock tonight. Here's 4 o'clock in the morning. That's when the showers will move through, maybe even a clap of thunder, and then it's gone. Lots of clouds tomorrow. So we've seen so much sunshine the last few weeks. Tomorrow will be the exception. We'll have the clouds around. Then we get to Friday, and here comes that sun just in time for the weekend. So for tomorrow, we'll start with the rain. We'll have clouds in the afternoon and 66 degrees, and then 63 on Friday, 72 Saturday, and look at that, flirting with 80 on Sunday. The record is 84, set back in 1930. That warm weekend will come with a bit of a breeze, I will tell you. It's going to be a bit on the windy side, both Saturday and Sunday. Windier Saturday than Sunday if you're trying to plan maybe a, convertible trip or whatever is on your calendar.
That's not a bad idea.
Looks like
Not
a
a
great
bad
idea.
idea.
80, love it. Thank
Nothing
you, Belle.
wrong with that.
Thank you, Belle. Minnesota Sports Facilities Authority and Mortensen Construction are headed for a 3-day mediation session next month. At issue is who should pay for $15 million in unforeseen costs resulting from changes to the Vikings Stadium. If the mediation fails, the dispute could go to arbitration. The stadium is more than 70% complete. It's scheduled to open next summer.
Coming up in sports, Wolves preseason basketball tonight.
And hockey season's in full swing with the Wild getting ready for tomorrow night's opener. Sports is up next.
KARE 11 Sports from the Mayo Clinic Sports Medicine Sports Desk. The good thing about preseason is that if you get waxed, who cares? It's only preseason. This is the first of 7 preseason games for the Timberwolves before they open the season for real later this month. Pretty tame crowd at Target Center tonight for the debut of the 2015-2016 Timberwolves. For those that did get to go, saw Karl Anthony Towns, the first overall pick, working it inside. What makes Towns so exciting a player is that he was equally adept outside as well. But the West is going to be a tough conference to win games in this year. Oklahoma City fully loaded again. Russell Westbrook throwing it down tonight. Kevin Durant in his first game back since he was injured in February. 6 remaining preseason games for Minnesota, only one of those at home. Hockey is here. Regular season starting this evening, 4 games on the NHL docket. In Chicago, they're still milking that trophy because it's the Cup. They also raised their championship banner to the rafters. As for the game against the Eastern powerhouse New York Rangers, Hawks fall 0-1 out of the gates. Love it. 3-2. Rangers get them. And so tomorrow night in Colorado, it's the Wild's debut. Minnesota will be in St. Paul then for their home opener on Saturday against the Blues. But tomorrow it's the Avalanche, and the puck drops. And that is a good thing.
As this week kind of approaches, you're just sitting around, you get sick of practice, and you just want to get going. We're excited for our season. We know they're going to be excited for our season. It'll be a little bit different starting on the road, but you know, we got some pretty high expectations for ourselves, and you always want to get off to a good start.
And things are about to get real for the Gopher men's hockey team as well. They fire up on Saturday against Vermont. Make sure you pick up a game program when you're there at Mariucci. You got to learn about all the new guys, and there are a bunch of them this season.
They're very skilled. They can move the puck, they can shoot. It's going to be a fun year seeing how they progress and seeing how they do.
I think there's no question, we're probably not as skilled as last year, but, it doesn't really come down to that. It comes down to heart and effort, and I think the first month we're really going to set the tone on how we're going to play for the rest of the year.
Home field meaning nothing so far in Major League Baseball's playoffs. Kyle Schwarber hits this home run ball so far off Garrett Cole, it actually sails out of PNC Park altogether and goes in the Allegheny. Pirates get grumpy after that. They plunk Arrieta then in their defense after Arrieta plunked a couple of their guys. Silliness ensues. Cubs, though, advance to play the Cardinals. Finally, back to basketball where LeBron James makes some kids' days, reaching out to shake hands tonight. That's cool, but not as cool as having him grab your cell phone and take a selfie with you, which is cool, but not as cool as inviting you on the bench with him like this girl. That is awesome. How stoked is she? She eventually went back to her parents and obviously was pretty doggone excited. Giddy, downright. Awesome. All right, that's sports. KARE 11 News back after this.
Well, before we go, an anonymous buyer with a unique taste for whiskey is now the owner of 2 rare bottles from Queen Elizabeth's collection. The person who bid $50,000 for one of the bottles of 1980 Bowmore single malt whiskey decided to buy the second bottle as well for the same price.
Why not?
Why not? The sale brought in $100,000 for the region's hospital burn center. The buyer is the first American to own the bottles, which comes from the Queen's private cellar.
Wow. It's like that first one went down so easy.
Wow. I'd be just afraid to drink it.
I know. Thanks for watching.
See you tomorrow.